The Battle of Bumville 1, Part 2, or The Revenge, or Redux. I'm going to play through this battle a second time. Go back and watch the first video if you need to get through all the logistics to understand how the game of Absolute Emperor by Boyd Bruce operates. We made a few little mistakes, a couple of things I didn't notice at the time. That Corps Commander never moved up. He really should have done that to keep everybody within 4 inches. Those cannons, by the time, remember, it's 9 inches. Everybody's got to stay within 4 inches of the Corps Commander, which means as these guys come up, that artillery's got to move up at least once. Do we want to do that at the start of the game, or do we want to do that later on? Oh, here's my die rolling thing. One other thing I added to remind myself, I'm a visual guy. I'm not so good at remembering things. Don't worry about that one. There's our elan. 4 elan for the French, 3 for the British. The start of the game, command and control, ain't nothing doing except for placing orders. Attack, defend, easy peasy. Because the French have the most elan, British have to move first. And this time the British say, you know what? I am going to go ahead and move up 2 inches into the woods on this side. They can't leave. That means it's time for the French to move. And this time the French say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and meet these guys head on. I'm going to chase them out of that woods and then circle around. So what we got over here is a cannon and a seasoned infantry trying to roust these guys out of Bumville. These guys are going to assume march formation. We want to move lickety-split. Changing formations is free, and when you do that, because they are now in column, no, they're in march column, they can move 4 inches up on this first turn to there. So they're going to get stuck in really quick. Then, oh, what am I doing? Why am I moving my elan? So we're done with moving. Then it's shooting. Now nobody is in range, so we're going to give these guys a shot, and because they're at long distance, firing into a town, they're only going to roll 1 die. And they get a 6, so already first blood to the boys in town. 1 hit point isn't enough to halt or do anything or cause, but they've only got 7 hit points left. So we move on to the next. They've got initiative. The British, have to move first. So the British are going to move 2 inches. Again, they're going to take it to these guys. Now they have to stay within. Oh, they're already out of. They got to stay within 4 inches of the built-up area. Oh, they're just inside that. So they can't move too far away. We'll bring him up just to keep him in the center. And then, likewise, we're going to bring him up to here for the French. Now, the French have to go, and the French are going to say, yeah, you know what? I want these guys to drop down into... Got to stay within 4 inches, and we got room. So we're going to wind up... We want to take another shot with this guy. I'm going to go ahead and bring these guys up another 4 inches to, let's see, we want to keep them out of the way. So I'm going to bring them up to here. Is that 4 inches to there? Yeah. So again, they're in column of march. They can move a total of 4 inches to there. Everybody's within 4 inches of our Corps Commander. These guys can move 2 inches up as well. And are they within 4 inches? Somebody is. Ooh, that's pretty tight. So we'll bring them over just a little bit more just to make sure. So everybody is. We're good. And then we move on to shooting again. Oh, yeah, they move 2. Okay. Ranges are only 2 inches except for that guy. He's going to roll another d6. And he misses this time around. All right. So we're done with this turn. Then we move on to turn number 3. We're going to do that. I wonder if I want to spend an elan to re-roll that. No, I'm going to wait until I have a lot more dice to roll before I spend any elan. These guys are now going to go ahead and change formation to line. Well, first of all, British want to move? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and move 2 inches like so. We'll bring him up. Are we still within 4 inches? Yes, we are. So they're going to stop. They're going to halt right there. And then these guys are going to move up 2 inches to here. And our cannons now are going to limber up, and they can move. Let's see, artillery can move. Infantry, cavalry. How fast can artillery move? Limbered up 3 inches. Great. So they are now facing that way, and they moved 3 inches. And our leader is going to stop right here, so everybody's within 4. That's not a problem. And then it's going to be time to do some shooting now over here. Oh, these guys want to move up to close range as well. And now it's time for shooting. All shooting is simultaneous. French get to pick where they start. They're going to start shooting from here to here. These guys, seasoned, firing into the town, roll 2d6. Normally in line it would be 4d6, but because they're shooting in, it's only going to be 2d6. They are hitting on 4s. So that is one more hit, bringing these guys up to a total of 2. Then these guys are going to fire, and this is going to be some snap, crackle, pop, boy. They are in line. They're going to shoot 4d6. Hitting on 4s. They get 2 hits, which is going to halt these guys. We're using the yellow dice. Now, they do have 8, but, you know, we'll see what happens. I may need to put 2 dice down. But the British get to counterattack. So we're going to start over here on the left and work from left to right. These guys are going to shoot 4 dice over here. They're going to get a total of 4 hits, which is absolutely devastating. We'll talk about what that means in a second. But we still have 2 more shots. So they're in a built-up area. They're kind of spread out throughout the town. This side can shoot at these guys. It's going to be 2d6. And they get a total of 1 hit, which is not going to be enough to halt these guys. So let's talk about what those 4 hits mean. Because they took 4 hits, these guys are now disordered. And that's where we use the red. They're in a bad way. It's going to take them 2 turns to improve. Not only that, but they cannot charge, they cannot shoot, and I think they're at very real risk. Look at that, the British rifle fire. How about that? I think they're at real risk of getting hammered by this charge, too. Cannot move, charge, or shoot if in combat. They re-roll 1 successful hit roll. They're thoroughly confused. It will take local commanders a long time to recover them as a combat effective. All right, so now we're moving on to the charge phase. They only took 1 hit, so they're going to be able to charge up into combat with the town. They're disordered. They cannot. These guys took 2 hits. That means they are halted. They can move, they can shoot or fight as normal, but they cannot charge. Interesting. So the only combat we have to resolve is these guys down here. Because the French are charging a built-up area, they only get to roll 2d6. Hitting on, they're still relatively fresh. They're hitting on 4s. So they get 1 more hit, brings them up to 3. The guys they're attacking also hit on 4s. And with the snake eyes. Now, here's where we're going to go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to re-roll that. The British think they can do better. And with 2 hits, they are now locked at 3 up. If they had taken 1 more hit, I mean, they can't because of 2d6, then they would have to recoil. But that's it for this turn. So we're moving on to turn number 4 now. The French still have plenty of elan. Now, in the command phase, because these guys are not in combat, they automatically improve 1 step. The disrupted becomes halted. The halted becomes fresh. Because the French commander really needs these guys to be fresh. He is going to spend 1 elan, bringing them down to 3, to make them fresh. And then we do what we always do. These guys each have a zone of control. You're not allowed to move across in the front out to, I think it's 1 inch, maybe ½ inch. Doesn't matter because everybody's kind of locked in, as it were. So that was 1, 2, 3. Now we're on 4. So the only movement that we have is these guys are going to unlimber. And then they are, you know, since they can't do anything else this turn, I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring them up to here to support whichever side needs it the most. and then unlimber. So they're ready to shoot. Now, they can spin is movement. So on the next turn, on turn number 5, if they need to, they can spin, and that's just the one move. Then they can still, I think, even after you've unlimbered, you can kind of spin and then fire on that turn. Even though you're unlimbered, you can spin. I don't know, that's how we're going to play it. So we have more shooting to do over here, and again, it's going to be 4d6 for the French. Hitting on 4s, they only get 1. We're going to go ahead and spend that last useful elan to re-roll that. Hitting on 4s, and that did the French no good. So these guys take 3, and now the British are going to shoot back, and they're going to hit 3 times, which is going to bring these guys up to 7 wounds. And they are once again pinned. Are they pinned or disrupted? 4 hits is disordered. So that's going to be a white one. They are halted. They're not going to be able to charge into combat. Do they want to just finish them off? I don't know. Let's see how this goes. We got a combat over here. The French, and of the two, this is the one you don't care about the least. I should say you care about the least. This is the one the British really need to win. The French are rolling 2d6, hitting on 4s. We're going to call that 1 hit over here to bring them up to 4 as the battle rages on. And then the British are going to attack back, and they're going to get 1 hit to bring these guys up to 4. The battle rages on. Buying time for these guys to win out. That's the end of the turn. It's going to be turn number 5 now. It's going to be turn number 5. There's a 5 on this die. Okay, there we go. Do we dare risk spending 1 more elan this turn? I don't know. The French... Oh, you know what? It's tied. So who has the most elan now? The rules were not a whole lot of help. These are written to be read. They're not written to be referred to during play. I guess that's what this is for. But whenever you have a rules question, you generally have to look in 4 places to make sure that you're doing things right. I looked in 4 places, and all it says is the side with the lower elan has the initiative. Doesn't say anything about what happens when tied. If it's in there, I couldn't find it in like 3 minutes of flipping, so I gave up. The orange die is for the British. The black is for the French. We're just rolling off for initiative. And, of course, we tied. The French maintain the initiative with a score of 6-2, so the French are going to say, yeah, you guys want to move? Ain't nobody moving. These guys also are supposed to be an inch apart. Okay, we'll make them 1 inch apart. You're not allowed to move within 1 inch unless you're charging. A half an inch. What's a half an inch between friends, right? We are done with the moving because everybody's kind of locked into where they're at. And then we're going to do our shooting phase. And because these guys, now here's what I was talking about, because these guys are not in combat, Cannoneer Boy can take a shot. Check this out. Because he is within the 4 inches, he's going to roll 2d6 and inflict up to 2 hits on hitting on 4s. He didn't hit at all. Okay. Well, then these guys are going to roll 4d6, and they are going to score a whopping 3 hits. That's going to pin these. Now, remember, even though they're stunned. Actually, I think that went away in the command phase. Didn't it? Yeah, it did. So even though they were halted, they did 3 hits, bringing these guys... Oh, did they? No, they only did 2 hits, bringing these guys up to a total of 5 damage. But they were at 3, so they're going to get their 4d6, and they're going to be hitting on 4s now. They're going to get the 1 hit. That drives these guys from the field. They have to make a check. It's got to be a 5 or a 6. Because it is not, they retreated, they just ran off, which means this goes to 1 and this goes to 3. Then we got to do this melee down here, and it's going to be 2 dice for the French, and they're going to get no hits. The French commander cannot spend that or he loses the game. Then it's going to be rolling 2d6 for the guys in the base. They are still at 4, so this goes up to 5, and now we've got conscripts attacking the town. That's the end of turn number 5. Then we go to turn number 6, and here we go. These guys are going to move in line formation. They're going to swing around this way to close in on this cannon. Remember, they're still within 4 inches. So even though they are on defend orders, they have the option of defending within this little area as their commander sees fit. So they swing on up to here. They're going to have to eat one more point-blank cannon range. That's it for the movement, unless these guys want to limber up and run away, which they do not, because in the shooting phase, it's going to be simultaneous. They're going to roll 2 dice, and they're going to get no hits. The French are going to roll 4 dice. Watch how fragile these guys are. Maybe it's 4 dice. Let me just double check. Infantry shooting 2 inches. Are they within 2 inches? Oh, they just made it. They roll 4 dice because they are in line. Shooting at... I think there's something about shooting at artillery. Artillery are pretty fragile. Once they become... If they take 2 hits, they're disordered. And 4 hits... From shooting, they're just out. Now remember, because these British line are fighting at the level of conscripts. They're only hitting on 5s. They are only going to get 1 hit. And I think we're going to spend to re-roll that, because we really want to get those 2 hits to disrupt them. And this time around, we're still only going to get 1 hit. So this artillery has 1 damage. And because of that, they're not disordered. They are going to be able to get off. Are they going to get off 1 more round? They may not. That was shooting. We're in turn 6, so here we go. They fired. Now we're doing melee. The French score 1 hit. That reduces these guys to 5. And then the British are... Oh, yeah, no, that was 1 hit. Then they're going to do 1 hit. And that's not enough to chase anybody off. So we now go on to turn number 7. We're getting down to the wire here. Nobody's disrupted. Nobody's pinned. It's just a whole lot of badly damaged units. The British have the initiative. They've got more elan. French, you want to move? Now we're going to stay there. All right, well, we're going to move up to within 2 inches. We're going to stop. Then it's time for shooting. Now the British get to shoot first, and it's going to be 4 dice against that cannon. And they're going to only score 1 hit. That takes them up to 2, which does disrupt them. That's what the British needed, because now they're not going to be able to attack anymore. And then we're back on to melee. We're going to roll 2 dice for these guys. Miss completely. We're going to roll 2 dice for these guys. We're going to do point number 7. And we move on to turn number 8. The cannons are never halted. They become disordered with 2. What does disordered mean again? I think it means they're just stuck there, doesn't it? Let's see what disordered means within the context of artillery. Continuing charges, multiple. Where's my, there we go. They cannot move, shoot, or charge. They reroll, if they're in combat, they reroll 1 successful hit roll. Right, because, forgot about that. There is a charge. We do have a combat here. And unfortunately, this is still on turn 7, by the way. I didn't handle this combat. They charge, they can't charge because they're already hurting. And in combat, infantry rolls 4d6 in line, and they score 1 hit, which is going to destroy those artillery. But the artillery, remember, it's simultaneous. They get to roll 1 die, and on a 5, they do punch through that last one. So they didn't go down without a fight. The question is, do they pass a waiver test? They do not. Wait, do they? They do, because they don't lose anything. They still succeed on a 4-up. If they had failed that, the French would have lost their last elan. But they didn't lose it, so we got to play out turn number 8. And on turn number 8, and I kind of think this is over, we'll get rid of that die because they've got 6. And on turn number 8, the only movement that we have are these guys moving like so. They cannot shoot into that combat, but they can charge into combat, and they're going to be charging into the flank of these guys. And we'll roll to see what they do to the townies, but again, the most they can do is 2 damage. They're not going to do any, so they're going to suffer 2 hits from the townies, and that's going to wipe them out. And with nobody left on the field, I mean, we can pass that waiver test, but they fail, so the French go down to 1. And this time, in the refight of the battle over Bumville, things went very different. The British were able to win both melees pretty much on their own. I mean, these guys coming over helped. But with some sporadic cannon fire, he runs away, by the way. I'm out of here. So much for Alain, but at least he's going to be able to sell his memoirs at a huge profit. And really, isn't that what matters the most? Tidy little game, plays really quick, kind of fun. Next time around, we're going to do the Battle of Bumville 2, which is going to add in a whole lot of new stuff. And by a whole lot, I mean cavalry. It's also going to make Elan be a much more important resource to utilize because you're going to have the same number of points and a whole lot more guys begging you to use it. Tune in next time. Battle of Bumville 2. I'm praying for you.